Hi, everybody. Today we are going to bring on a guest who is somebody very active in our local community here in Victoria. I've met her once and I asked if she wanted to be interviewed, and I'm excited to discover more about her and share everything that we find out about her with you today. So, in 1 second, we will bring her in. Welcome, Gloria, to our show.
Thank you.
So, I've met you just once, and you are the owner of SharGloMa Soaps.
Correct. Yeah.
And I love your product. And typically I don't talk about products. I'm not even a product person. If I find something I like, I'm just going to stick with it, you know, like
Yes. Yeah.
for like 20 or 30 years. Like I don't really look around and try to find new stuff. If it
Yes.
works, I'm happy and I'm done, you know?
Yes.
And I discovered your soaps in one of the grocery stores in Victoria.
Yes.
And I loved it. And after I used it all, I was kind of nervous because I was like, it was in a neighborhood I never go to. And I was like, oh no, do I need to go back to that place to find that soap again? So I looked it up on your website and found out you're in Victoria.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, this is awesome. And so I've really been enjoying your products. So have my children. They're teenagers, so they're obviously more picky with products. And they've been really happy with your soaps.
Yes.
My husband also. So can you let us know a little bit about how this came to be your soap company?
Sure. So about, in the late 90s, it was something I was always curious about. How do you make soap? It was just sort of a curiosity. It was right at the beginning of the internet actually being used. And so I did a lot of research on the internet. It was pretty basic stuff back then. And basically self-taught myself how to make it. I started experimenting with it and doing basic recipes. It became quite an addiction. So I was producing enormous amounts of soap.
Okay.
And it's not a really cheap hobby to get into. And during that time, I really connected with a lot of other women who were also soap makers. It was a really interesting time back then. You sort of connected through the internet because, like I said, it was a relatively new phenomenon at that time. And all these people were connected all over the world who were doing the same thing. And so I connected with a really large group of women who were making soap on the island and in the Pacific Northwest, down in the States and in Vancouver. And within that group, we started to have what we called soap gatherings. We would all get together. We would do buying co-ops. It became this real sisterhood kind of thing. It was a wonderful time. We would all get together and exchange recipes and exchange product. And at that time, I still really wasn't selling. I was still giving it away to friends and family and learning, sourcing out suppliers because I was becoming more and more addicted, and essential oils are very expensive. So yeah, I had to find ways to get large amounts of them. So it just sort of was this really organic growth of what was initially just a curiosity that turned into a very passionate hobby that I thought about constantly. I got very involved with a lot of different women who were also in their early stages of developing their product lines. And I've remained friends with a lot of these women for the whole 20 years. I eventually did start selling it in the Moss Street Market. At that time, the name of my soap company was Glorias Handmade Soaps. And it was great. It was a lovely time, and I loved doing it. I did it for 2 years. I was still working at that time. It was a lot of work, but it was just, I loved the markets. I loved meeting the people. I loved producing the soap. In 2003, unfortunately, I had a bit of a family crisis. I lost my father and my sister. And at that time, I kind of stepped away from the soap making. I had, it just became a little overwhelming for me. So I kind of stepped back and I started concentrating more on work and family. Just a little side note, at that time, I had enough soap made that for the next, 2003, probably the next 15 years, I didn't have to make soap.
Wow.
So it was I had a large amount of soap stockpiled.
Yeah.
like I said, I tried everything. Any new thing that came out, I would try it. I was a bit addicted. So when I retired, I thought, well, you know, I love making soap. I want to get back into it. I don't have any anymore, so I've got to make my own. So I really just threw myself back into it. I was living actually down in Mexico for 6 months and met a woman down there who had a little shop, and she wanted me to teach her how to make soap. So I did, and I started making soap for her. And then when we moved back to Canada, I thought, well, I just have to get back into this. So I did. And basically the same thing happened. I started making soap for myself. It just grew and grew and grew. There's a lot more things happening in soap making now. It's become pretty sophisticated. So I really got involved in it and started creating new recipes and playing around with different product and finding different suppliers. And again, ended up with a ton of soap. So decided to go back into selling it again, and went back to the Moss Street Market, which is where I normally would sell. Of course, right now we're not selling.
Yeah.
And it just kind of grew from there. It's, I have a very interesting sort of look at soap. I think it's a fabulous product. I love making it. And I want to make a product that is really high quality, that I can sell to people at a really reasonable price. I don't have a huge markup on my soaps. And the reason being is that it's a labor of love for me. And I really like sharing that with people. So
yeah, it's great. I mean, I find them very, very reasonably priced. And all the different ones I've tried have amazing smells, and they're also moisturizing, which has been my idea originally, was to find more natural soaps.
Yes.
For health reasons, but also for the environment. I've slowly been moving our house more into the green type of
Yes.
Beauty or cleaning products, and it's hard. It's a slow process when you've been brought up in a generation where we're used to buying everything in the grocery store that's produced by huge corporations that really don't care about that much, you know? And
yeah.
With the soap, that's been one of the hardest, because I have very dry skin, and so does my daughter. So anytime I try a natural soap, it would smell great, but then it'd be like rubbery after.
Yes. Yeah.
And so even when I bought your soaps, one of my little girls was like, "You're not going to like it. I already know." And I'm like, "I'm going to try this one because it just looks like it's going to work." And it did. And I was like, I even told my sister, who's in green beauty, she uses essential oils for special face oil blends.
Yes.
And like you, she told me the same thing. She's like, "I don't need to mark up my products a ton because I love what I do. And also, you know, I know what the prices are on things."
Yes.
And I see people marking them up like
huge. Yeah.
Huge. And she's like, "I don't really feel good about it. Like, I can't do it. I don't see why. I mean, people are doing it, but I don't feel comfortable doing it." And she goes, "And I know people would pay. Even I could do it and people will pay. But why? Why would I want to do that? People like my product. Right now it's affordable for everybody." And so I like to talk to her also. And when I discovered your soaps, I also told her about that. So next time I see her, she lives in the US, and who knows when I'll see her again. I definitely want to bring some of your products so she can tell me what she thinks, because she's very into this world and has been forever.
Yes.
And I know for her, like, finding a name was so hard to figure out the name. And it's interesting, like, you started with Gloria soaps, natural soaps, and now you're SharGloMa.
Yes.
And is that like a combination of different people, or?
Yeah, it's an interesting story. SharGloMa, back when I was a kid, they didn't have lotteries. They had the Irish sweepstakes. And so the Irish sweepstakes, my parents bought these tickets all the time, and you would have to name your horse, right? So my parents came up with a name that was a combination of my sister's and my name. So Shar is my sister Sharon, Glo is me, Gloria, and then Ma was my sister Mary. So SharGloMa was just sort of something that was around when I was thinking of what I was going to name my company. For me, like, I lost my older sister. She passed away quite a few years ago. And it was just a way to sort of bring that back into my life. It makes me happy when I see it. It's just, and I knew it was going to be a unique name that nobody else would have it. So that's where it came from.
That's great. That's a great story. I love that. And so now, like, the way you're doing things, like it looks like you've done so many different recipes and tried so many things. Like, do you feel like you've perfected it and now you're like happy with what you have?
Yes. Yeah. I love my recipe right now. I was using a recipe that had palm oil in it, and the palm oil is a fabulous product for putting into soap. And I would buy what was called sustainable palm oil. But the more I looked into it, the more I realized that there was really no good. I couldn't be 100% confident that just because it said it was sustainable, it really was. And so because I wasn't comfortable with that, I finally sat down and tried to do it. And I developed a recipe without palm oil. So I'm really happy with this recipe. I had to increase some of my premium oils quite a bit to make up for the missing palm oil, but I think it's created a much nicer bar of soap. It has a lot of cocoa butter and shea butter in it, and that's one of the shea butter is what gives it that really interesting texture. So I played around with the recipe till I got something that would cure out fast and still be really good for the skin. So I'm really happy with this recipe. Yeah.
That's very great. Happy. And the palm oil thing is such a big deal. And there have been lots of news about it, and people are becoming more and more aware that the palm oil industry is just not great for our planet. And I was using the soap Dove for so many years, and I found out it had that. And even I told my sister, and both of us were like, oh no, what are we going to do? We can't use Dove anymore. Like, it was almost like, oh, this is like, how do we deal with this? And what's interesting is, like, you really do have to make a conscious effort sometimes when you start. The more aware you become, then you have that responsibility. And then if you decide, like, I'm going to buy Dove and I know what it's doing and I feel kind of bad about it, but I'm making a conscious decision to buy it. Like, you kind of have to weigh those out sometimes.
Yes.
And I don't know, like, we moved from France like 6 months ago, and I think you know about Nutella.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So that's like huge in France and in Europe, and I think it's pretty big here probably. And they had that whole thing with the palm oil, and everyone was trying to ban Nutella.
Oh, yeah.
And I was thinking, wow, they're going to have to change the recipe. This is going to be the end for them. Yes. And they did nothing. And they did nothing. They just kept doing it. And people keep buying it. It's still in all the grocery stores. And there's some people that like refuse to buy it now. And you can find kind of a hazelnut cocoa cream that's more natural. That's just as good. But that brand, they still do it. It's almost like it didn't matter. And the consumer that found out was thinking, well, I'm not changing my habits. Like, big deal. I'm going to keep buying Nutella. What's the big deal, you know? But you kind of have to make that choice at one point when you're more aware of what's going on. Like, now that I know, how can I ignore that, you know?
Yes. And that's the whole thing. I mean, I was really on the fence for actually quite a while around the palm oil issue, because I do know that there's lots of small palm oil producers that are being affected by this as well. You know, you're kind of affecting their livelihoods. But at the same time, I know that the palm oil I'm buying is coming from big producers. It's not coming from artisan producers. So I just finally decided enough is enough. I can't in good consciousness say to people, this is sustainably produced palm oil, when I really am not convinced that the chain of ownership has been legitimate, right? There's a lot of documentation out there that says, they're putting sustainable on it, but it's not really. It's coming from the forests that have taken out the orangutans, and I'm really not. The majority of the palm oil that's produced commercially is coming from Malaysia, and that's where the biggest problem is. So if I could get it from Mexico, that would be great, because I know Mexico has some beautiful palm oil farms, but that's not where it comes from. So so you had to make that decision. And the other thing I've done, the shea butter I buy, it's really I actually source it here on the island.
Wow.
There's a fellow here who imports it from Ghana, from a woman's cooperative.
Great.
And it's all fair trade product. And he goes out of his way to make sure that they get a really good wage for it. He pays way more for his shea butter than other people do. It's all produced by hand. It's quite an amazing story. The name of the company is Baraka. And I say he's here on the island. I go up and pick it up from him. He's a lovely man, and it's a beautiful product. So that makes me feel good that I'm helping this woman's cooperative over in Ghana, that they produce this beautiful shea butter.
Yeah, that's a great story. And I feel like I'm hoping that even more people are going to be even more sensitive to these type of things now that we have the COVID happening.
Exactly.
And people start realizing like how we're also connected, because sometimes it's human nature maybe to be like, well, it's not affecting me directly.
That's right.
So I don't care. But then when you start really seeing that we're also connected, then you think, wow, if I can sell a soap that has all the ingredients coming from people that are helping women become more independent and helping local people, and it's just like, then you must feel great about your product, you know?
Yeah, I do. I have spent a lot of time sort of developing my recipes, but also promoting that I think handmade soaps are absolutely the best way to go. They're a higher quality product than any of the commercial soaps, any handmade soap, not just mine. But I do think it has to be affordable. I mean, I get kind of upset by some of the pricing that I see, because it becomes very exclusive to people who can afford it rather than just everybody, right? So I try and keep my prices at a point where people can afford to buy it, and I keep my quality to a point where the soap will last a long enough time that it's worth the price that you paid for it, right? And not watching it wash down the drain and disappear. So
but I think that's so hard to find that balance, because nowadays people, they think like, I want this cheap, and it's like, okay, you can get cheap from a huge manufacturer, a huge, billion-dollar industry like Unilever or Johnson & Johnson. Like, they can do all that. But when you're just one person and you're taking the time to find these great ingredients, then I believe people, at one point, I hope people see the value in it, even if they think even if it's a tiny bit more expensive. It's kind of like, if you're going to be aware and a steward of the planet, then you need to forget about cheap. You know what I mean? Like, it's great if it's great if it's affordable, but if you can afford it, and it's a little more expensive because of the ingredients, not just because someone's marking it up like 800%, then I feel good about it. Like, it can't be just about convenience all the time or being cheap all the time. That's not how we're going to sustain things anymore.
No, it's true. And and like I said, I really do work hard to price my products so that most people that I make enough of a profit that I'm able to continue to make soap. But it's, there are a lot of people out there who take advantage of the natural phrasing, I think. It's my opinion. And they stick the word natural on it and then put the price up 100%. Well, I'm not into that. I've had people tell me I've had a lot of people tell me, you need to charge more for your soap. You're not charging enough. It's a really high quality product. You should be charging, these really high prices. And I said, I can't. I couldn't live with myself. I would have a hard time selling something that I knew I had marked up 500%. There's no way, right? I don't need to do it, and I won't. So I continue to sell at a reasonable price. And will continue to sell at a reasonable price.
The other thing that's great about doing these types of soaps is also the fact that we're not using plastic gels anymore. I don't really know at what point we switched so much from using bar soap or things like that, and automatically went to pumps and huge things with hand gel, like hand soap, liquid soap, all of those things. And like I said, like, it's been a very small steps for our family to slowly be like, how can we reduce the plastic we buy? How can we, without changing our lifestyle so much, you know,
Yeah.
but just in a conscious way. And for example, you are selling bar soap shampoos.
Yes.
And
Yes.
when I saw that, because I was thinking, especially for men, like I have
Yes.
curly hair, it's super hard for me to find my products, but like men, they have short hair, they kind of don't care.
No.
Plus I've noticed, and I'm generalizing, but most women will probably agree, but like I find that when they have shampoo, they buy a big bottle and they just use so much, like squeezing it. And then,
Yeah.
and in like 2 weeks, you're like, they'll say, oh, can you get me more shampoo when you go to the store? And you're like, really? Like, didn't we just buy you a bottle? And then when I saw your shampoo bars, I was like, I'm going to try this because if my husband likes it, I bet you first of all, we won't have the huge shampoo plastic bottles that we buy every 3 to 4 weeks, you know?
Yes.
And he loved it.
Yeah.
And he was super excited about it. And I didn't say like, I'm doing this because I don't want to buy shampoo bottles for you anymore. All I said was, try this shampoo bar soap. And he tried it. And on his own, he loved it and came and he said, wow, I can't believe I was using shampoo bottles. What a waste.
That's awesome.
Right. And now it's been basically, you delivered that to our house right as COVID started. So it's been like 6-7 weeks now.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
he washes his hair every morning. He easily has another 4 weeks on that. So that little bar is lasting like 2 months.
I know. And
I don't know why. It makes me so happy when I see that little bar in the shower. I'm just like, it's such a nice thing to have. It's natural. It's good ingredients. No plastic. He likes it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a big difference. Like, packaging for sure. I mean, packaging is such a huge issue in our society. I mean, it's hard to not get packaging, right? Like you really work at it. And, so it is nice, right? I do try, and the nice thing about handmade products is you can reduce your packaging and all the plastics. And soap, the bar soap, the shampoo bar, it's a great bar soap. And you're right, curly hair, I wouldn't even attempt. It's hard. My daughter has very curly hair as well, and it's a bit more challenging for her. But I use the shampoo bar. I don't use it all the time. I'm being really transparent here, but I do use it, and I find it's great for my hair. I don't have any problems with it. So I have straight hair, and it's not colored right now either, so that makes a bit of a difference.
Yeah, but so far, I think the products, there's so much, if you dig deep, you know, that they're local, they're natural, they're great for the planet, they're great for us, they're great because there's no packaging. Like, there's just so much that's just that. Like, if people want to just do one thing that's super easy in their life, that's not going to make them change their comfort level or be so extreme that they're like, this is too intense, I can't deal, you know? Because some people think like, oh, the environment, like, I can't handle it. It's going to just, I'm too old now, forget it, right? But it's like, just that soap is already so much. It's just one step, you know?
Yes, yeah, you reduce a lot. There's no chemicals in it. And the other thing I like to do, just so you know, I love to teach people how to make soap.
Okay, great.
If they want to learn how when COVID is over, it's a great thing. It's actually not that complicated. It's an easy thing to do, and you can make your own soap even cheaper, right? I mean, the products are all available, and so barking dog, sorry.
That's okay. That's life. Yeah.
Life. Oh, just a sec. I'm going to kick him outside.
Yeah, no problem.
There. In the distance now.
Yeah. So just out of curiosity, you mentioned earlier, like, that before you started, like, really getting focused and deciding whether you wanted to sell your soaps or not, that you were working. So what kind of work were you doing before you were in the soap industry?
Well, I've had a very varied career. So the majority of my career I spent in payroll, actually, working as a pay tech for BC Ferries.
Okay.
While I was working with them, though, I tried all their jobs. So I worked on the ships. I did a little bit of everything. When I retired for a full year, and then actually ended up taking another job with the company that provides the payroll services for the provincial government. Went to work for them as a business analyst and eventually became the payroll manager there. So I sort of had another career after my initial career. And so I stayed about 5 years and then ultimately retired from there in 2014. So mostly in administration work, office work. That was my what paid the bills. So, yeah, I've done a little bit of everything. The jack of all trades. I wouldn't say I've had a specific, somebody asked me, what did you do for a living? I've done a lot of different things. I kind of went wherever. I worked from home. I didn't work from home. I was a homemaker, and would find jobs that accommodated that. So I would work on weekends and other times when my husband could look after the kids. So yeah, so I did a little bit of everything.
Yeah, that's great. It's great to do lots of different things and then find different interests. And then the last time that you dropped off some soaps, you also gave me some like samples of laundry detergent. And because I was starting to like look into that more and more, like I keep buying natural ones, but they always come, all the natural ones, I don't know why so far, come, they're in a soap, liquid soap. So they come in a plastic thing because otherwise you can't contain it. And I haven't seen natural powders. I don't know why. And you brought some natural powders that you made from a couple different things. And I think they work wonderfully. I'm really happy with them, especially as, again, there's not a huge plastic thing at the end.
Right.
I know it's not ruining the water and going into the ocean and ruining everything. Right. And what I thought was interesting is they're non-scented. And that's been the hardest part for me and my family, is because the marketing industry's done such a great job psychologically conditioning us to believe that if it smells good, it's clean,
Yes. Yeah.
And I realized that, and then my husband, who has like a lot of scientific background, was saying like things that, or clothing or things that hold a smell, it's because they added some kind of binding agent.
Yes.
And then I was thinking, wow, what does that do to the environment? Because you drop those off, and I said, well, if I add an essential oil, will it help? And you said yes, but it won't be the same effect as the perfumes you're used to. And you were right. So like I've added like spearmint, and when it comes out, it smells, but after it's dry and everything, it's pretty neutral.
Yes.
And I was just wondering, like, do you have any ideas for people that want to move towards more natural detergents, and they have that thing like, yeah, but I want it to smell like really strong? Like what would you say? Like, or is there a way to educate us a little more about maybe that's not so important? Or
and it truly isn't important. I mean, I think my husband is particularly sensitive to scent. So we've used unscented products for years for my laundry. And I think what I've learned is clean smells completely different. And so now I find scented products, it's sort of like back in the day when I was a smoker, I hate to admit, when when smoking, all of a sudden everything tastes better and smells better, right? So I think once I took the scented products out, like I have no tolerance now for cigarette smoke, and now I have no tolerance for artificial scented products. It's conditioning. We're totally conditioned. And what I smell now when I smell my laundry is clean clothes. I don't smell a perfume. To me, perfume is masking something, or if it's scented, then it's masking something. What are you masking? And so I do have. It is very neutral, and there really is nothing I could do to the laundry detergent to. Like I told you, I couldn't put in enough lemon essential oil to give it a lemony smell, but it would actually stay on your clothes. You'd still just get a really clean smelling product. But I think we have to think about what are those scents that are so long lasting. Like if it's lasting that long, it's not a natural scent. It's got to be an artificial scent. What products are they using to make it? And clean smells great. Like something that's just clean smells fabulous. And, you know, if you really feel the need to have that smell, then after you do your laundry, spritz some lavender water around.
Yeah.
In your laundry, it'll smell like lavender. I think the best, if you have a clothesline, that's the best. And then it really smells good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true about the smells, because now that I've really switched more to more natural soaps and things like that, if I use a soap in the kitchen to wash my hands or something that's not super natural, I don't like the perfumey smell at all now. It kind of bothers me. Like, it's just too much, and it's not, there's just something not appealing about it anymore. And I just feel way more drawn to having natural essential oil type smells instead, that just seem just so lovely. And it's true that the less we use those perfumey things in soaps, detergents, or whatever, and more natural, then you really start to appreciate the natural ones. And you just, it's very different, right?
Well, nature smells fabulous by itself.
Yeah.
And if we're doing everything with an artificial scent, we're not really smelling the world the way it is. And there's some beautiful scents out there. Our nose gets all messed up. And for instance, my house, like because I make all my soap here, I've got a soap workroom in my house. And there's lots of essential oils. So my house smells of all of my soaps mixed together at once. But I don't smell it anymore. Yeah. So when people come over, they'll tell me, your house smells amazing. And it's like, I don't smell it. Like, I truly don't smell it at all. We become very used to whatever odors are around. I think with the artificial scent, it's just really a matter of removing it and then realizing as much you thought you did. It's preferable. Just clean.
Yeah. So, so are you still working on your natural detergents for maybe when COVID's over, or?
Yes, yeah. Still, it's sort of sat to the back burner now, but I am going to continue working on those because I really do want to introduce it as a product. I personally love I don't have a dishwasher, so I really like the dishwashing soap. I think it does an amazing job on all my dishes, and so I'm going to promote that a bit more. Great. And then also the laundry detergent. I'm going to have the two kinds because I do use tallow in one, and the other one was olive oil based, and I'm going to try a coconut oil based one to sort of compare them side by side. The tallow is an amazing product, and it really got sort of dropped from soap making back about the same time as I started making soap. And again, it was because of the vegetarian movement, and just a lot of people didn't realize that most commercial soaps were made with tallow. And
can you tell us what tallow is for people out there that don't know?
Yeah, tallow is rendered beef fat, basically suet, and it comes from a specific part of the beef. It's sort of the kidney, the fat around the internal organs. So that's rendered down into what's called tallow. And they used to, back in the day, like, you know, all soaps were made out of tallow. Candles were made out of tallow. Tallow soaps are probably one of the best soaps you can get. The pH level of those soaps tends to be a bit lower than closer to the 7, like closer to neutral. And it has a beautiful cleaning capacity. It's really good on it's great in the skin. I love using tallow for making soaps, but they kind of went out of favor. And so the tallow I'm using, I've rendered it all myself. I get it from the Berryman Brothers, and I get it from the local butchers here who are producing farm gate meat, sort of all natural raised beef, not from, you know, meat lots sort of thing. So
and otherwise this would have been thrown away probably, right?
Absolutely. It's just a waste product, right? So it's using all parts of the animal. And again, tallow it's an amazing fat to work with. It used to be the prime ingredient in all soaps. Ivory Snow was completely tallow. I believe it was close to 100% at one time. So yeah, it's a lovely, gentle soap. And but it just went out of favor, so people stopped making it. It's starting to come back now. It's people realize that, you know, if you're a meat eater, if you're not vegetarian, then there's no reason why you can't use a tallow soap. It's using up all parts of the animal. There's no waste.
Yeah.
And and it does make a beautiful laundry soap and dishwashing soap, any kind of a soap. It just does a beautiful job of cleaning everything. So including yourself, without stripping all the oils away from your skin. So I do carry now, I do have 2 tallow soaps that I've included in my line, and I'm going to continue adding a couple more, just to have that option and to educate people that it's an excellent product. It shouldn't be looked down on because of where it came from.
Yeah, so, that's great. And that's probably very hard to get through to people, because especially, I can see why vegetarians or vegans, they would be like, no way. But people that really are meat eaters, you know, they definitely should be okay with it, because
it's fine. If you eat meat, there's no reason why you can't use a tallow soap or shouldn't. Again, I mean, I mark everything very well. I make sure that people know that what's vegan, what's vegetarian, what's certainly not either. And yeah, it's just an education. It's a wonderful oil to work with. It just makes a beautiful bar of soap. So I was, you know, when I first got into soap making, it was just on its way out. And it was actually kind of sad, because my first soaps that I made were tallow soaps, and I really liked them. They were just lovely, but there was really no market for them. It was almost impossible to sell them. So
yeah. Well, it's great just to know all these different things, because I mean, maybe some environmentalists or green beauty people know all this, but most people don't. Like, I learned a lot of this from you, and I think it's interesting to know these type of things, so we can make good decisions when we buy things. And just like you said, you get yours from butchers or farms that are actually doing nice. They're like open range animals. Yeah. I'm assuming no hormones or something. I'm assuming.
That's right. No hormones. They're all mostly organic. They're all ethically raised, so they're not raised on feedlots, and they're grass fed, and the animals have as good a life as an animal can have. That's going to eventually feed us. Yeah. So, you know, I don't buy anything from, you know, I don't buy the commercial tallow. You know, some of our soap supply places will sell you a commercialized tallow, which is what is coming from the feedlots. So I don't buy any of that. And I render it myself. So I get it in the original form, and then I render it down myself.
Yeah. That must be quite a process.
It's interesting, but it's a day-long project. And right now I'm not selling huge amounts of tallow soap. So I'm selling a few. So it's fun. It's just another part of it, right? I like doing it all myself. If I could figure out a way to distill essential oils, I'd do that too. But that's another whole thing. Yeah, that's another whole thing.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for sharing all of these things with us. And what would be great, so I'll put this up on my website, and it'll be, people can either listen to it or watch it. And then we can also put links. So links to your website, and then links to any local or non-local organizations that you like, that people can also go to and just educate themselves, find out more about this type of thing you're doing. Okay,
that would be lovely.
Yeah, so thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I've really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you. Okay, everyone, we're back. I asked Gloria if she could run and just put some of her soaps on display, so you can see how beautiful they are. So I don't know if you can see, but lots of them have all these different colors in them. They all have different smells. So there they are. Great. Thank you so much, Gloria.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye-bye.